professionals at distraction, because we're so excited about every little, like a butterfly. We just flit from thing to thing. So one of them, and I've already tried it, and it's been profound, and I want to do it on a regular basis. But let me just read a couple of those to you. And does anybody have any comment while I'm looking? A couple of things she mentions are the wakeful sleepers. Marcus Aurelius warned himself by saying, do not act as if you had 1,000 years to live. It's later than you think. She talks about the waking sleepers who indulge in time-killing pursuits, the solitaire players, the pathological bookworms. Not to say that any of these things are wrong, but you could expend a lot of energy in some of these things. Crossword puzzlers, jigsaw puzzle contingent, the takers of eternal postgraduate courses, the devoted daughters and sons and mothers, here's key, who pour out their lives into the lives of other adults, but whose offering, since they've never truly developed what was most valuable in themselves, adds no richness, only unimportant comfort to the objects of their self-sacrifice. That one hit me between the eyes, because we can pour ourselves out as women in everybody else's life, never doing the thing that God put in us to do. And that's a default mode for me. I don't know if it is for you, but it is for me. The way we go, that's opposite of the way we really want to go. You're like, why? I want to do this. Why am I not doing it? What is wrong with me? I don't know if you've ever asked yourself that. What is wrong with me?
How many times a day?
I'm trying to do this and I want to do it. Why do I not do it? And Mark will ask me sometimes, he says, Christy, I thought you were going to paint today. I'm like, I know. I meant to, but what time is it? 11 o'clock if I start? I know it's too late now. So here's a few of the highlights. I'm just going to skip through them real fast. Two things she says are very important to break this spell. One of them is to act as if it were impossible to fail. That goes back to that fake it till you make it. So just do it and act like it's fabulous. Just tell yourself the whole time, this is going to be fabulous. I'm so excited about this. Act like it. The second one is, she talks about imagination, and she says, imagination will do the work even better and more neatly than desperation when you cut away the possibility of failure. So that goes along with acting as if you imagine this beautiful painting on the wall. You go ahead and picture it in the frame and everything. You just start to envision things that are very positive, which we learned in the Bible study I'm doing recently, that when you start to activate those parts of your brain that are positive, even just exercising your imagination. I mean, how many times have you stopped and 2 or 3 things I'm doing right now are coloring and bleeding into each other because it's a divine path that I'm on right now, and I know that it is. How many times have you sat and pictured what's one of your happiest childhood memories? Christmas morning. What kind of pajamas did I have on? I remember that gown. It was too short. Oh, I remember Mama had all those presents piled up in the corner. Remember that little pink horse? And make yourself visualize it in your mind. And this other book, The Brain, Who Switched Off My Brain? Who Switched On My Brain? Off My Brain. She talks about using your imagination too, because it lights up your brain. And when your brain lights up, it creates health, and it's good for your heart. It's just good all the way. Number 1. And do y'all have anything to say? Because I feel like
we're captivated by you right now.
It's fabulous. I hope I'm not the only one that's just...
No, true.
These exercises, will help make our minds both keener and more flexible. We all tend to find a routine which gets our day's tasks done with a minimum of effort. In fact, Bonnie, one of my school students who just started last week, she came in, this is her second class. She walked right to nobody was here yet. She walked to the exact same chair she sat in last week. And I thought that was just an elderly thing. For me, I thought it was just me. But I said, Bonnie, that's interesting that you went. She said, I know, I always do that. She said, I notice how people sit on the same pew in the same area of church, even in the same spot on the pew, you know, like 2 down or wherever you sit, or you go in the same bathroom stall. We quickly settle into a routine, sometimes very negatively, of a pattern that doesn't let us stretch. So this is what I believe she's saying. So she's skipping. But she says, discipline is essential if we're to develop the qualities necessary for a full life. Mental discipline should connote the equivalent in the sphere of the mind which the athlete undertakes for perfecting his body. We should first take stock of our minds and then put them through their paces so that we can get the maximum use from them. 1936, girls. Now, I mean, this is timeless material. Mm-hmm. So we have exercises in flexibility. I've written this in the margin. I found it somewhere else in the book. Exercises in flexibility and restraint help us attain directness, turn us away from apprehension into useful channels to act wisely and to store up courage for major issues. That's one of the quotes that I just found really profound. So again, here's a few of the exercise. The first exercise, number 1, is to spend an hour every day without saying anything except in answer to direct questions. Now, what would that do in the art world? I don't know that all of these will apply in the art world, but they might be for a writer, or on some level, I think it would be wonderful mental exercise. So her purpose with this is to use speech definitely and purposefully, because we usually rush right in. I don't know about you, but my speech connects me to things that I have no business doing, because I see somebody that needs help redecorating the new house they just moved in, and before I know it, I've rushed into offering to do that for them without thinking about it. So then that's less time for me, which is not wrong, but these exercises are meant to give us wisdom to pause if we're having to not talk an entire day except to answer a direct question. We learn how to listen and how to be very careful. Some people don't need this as much as people like me need it because I talk so much. She says at the end, all who have experimented with this agree that while the silence lasted, a sense of mastery grew in me with the sense of using speech definitely and purposefully. So that's just one discipline. The second one, I'm only going to read a couple of these. I'm going to send them to you, and then we may talk about them each month. But learn to think for half an hour a day exclusively on one subject. Simple as this sounds, it is ludicrously hard at first. The novice should begin by thinking of his solitary subject for 5 minutes a day, increasing the period daily until half an hour has been attained. Begin with a concrete object, say a flower. Don't have the flower before you. Build it up in your mind. Describe it to yourself as each of the senses would report it. When it's gone, when that is done, go on to how the flower grows, where it grows, what it symbolizes, if anything, what uses are made out of it. From this simple beginning, work up to considering a concrete problem and finally to abstraction. I don't know what that means. That goes over my head. But start with subjects which really interest you. And then when you've taught your mind not to wander for even a moment, begin choosing a subject by putting your finger at random on a newspaper or a page of a book, and think on the first idea suggested by the line you touched. So how that applies to me is vast, because I plan to paint and the phone rings, or I go, let me go get the mail first, and then I'm off all the time. Or even in my conversations when I'm speaking, Mark cannot hardly follow me. Women can follow me because I jump from thing to thing to thing. But I've had this on my mind now for how many years? Since 2012 when I found this in Mama's books. Mom passed in 2011. I've done it twice. what did I do? I did one of the other exercises.
Plan out an hour.
Plan 2 hours of your day, and down to this minute. You know, you're washing dishes until 2:34. You're going to go do this until, 1:45. Stop exactly at that time and move to the next thing. And, she gives you all the benefits of learning. You don't do that all the time, but you plan, you start to see how much can be done in a small second if you do not let yourself be distracted. And if you, and this, which is what the majority of men painters, they have dedicated their lives to just painting. They don't stop and cook dinner. They don't answer the phone. They go into their studio. They are not distracted.
They're not multitaskers.
They're not multitaskers. Mostly men aren't. If you tell them 5 things at once, they're totally overwhelmed. Whereas we're like doing 50 things. We can do that. God gave us a brain to do that, but it's to our detriment sometimes. So my thoughts about this group, and it might be that we take a year if we end up continuing on with it, is that we would take these disciplines. She suggests writing them on pieces of paper, and I believe it's good to read about them and understand them before you do them a little bit, so you can see the benefit of doing them. You may not want to do all of them. You may want to start with a couple, but she says put them in a little basket or box and draw one out once a month or once a week and do it and see what you learn from it. And then you may decide, hey, I want to do that a little bit more often because I want to develop my brain. I want to learn, and I believe these are Alzheimer prevention things as well.